Okay, my name is Dr.Zimin,
And I'm Sophia Gerontakos.
and I'm glad to have Sophia in our beautiful city. And I'm so glad that naturopathy is also exists not only in Russia but also in other countries. So, and I want to ask some kind of questions, some questions about how naturopathic medicine um, is. What's it takes the place in overall medicine. I mean, from point of view of ordinary people, uh, in which cases they can go to naturopathy doctor.
Okay, so there's quite a few people that would use a naturopath as their primary health provider, but also naturopathy fills a gap for people with very chronic diseases and situations where they've usually been to quite a number of different healthcare providers and haven't really received um, the results they need. So
Uh-huh.
that's when they end up coming to a naturopath, oftentimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's also the same thing we have here in Russia because the patient they come to naturopath just at the end of their disease, not in the beginning when
Yeah.
they should. It's a huge problem, and it should be vice versa. They
Yeah.
should begin with naturopathic medicine, and after that, go to other doctors. So from this point of view, naturopathic medicine is like a prophylaxis medicine.
Uh, Ideally, it's prophylaxis, but oftentimes we're treating people when they're very far progressed in their disease states. So it's not necessarily prophylaxis in those cases, but it's more about improving quality of life, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and my question is also about insurance because I know the countries that can be they can cover all the financial um, expense on financial. They cover this financially. For example, in Switzerland, you can go to a naturopathic doctor, and after that, it will be covered by governmental insurance.
Okay.
What's the situation in Australia?
We don't have that situation in Australia. So currently, if you consult with a naturopath, it's out of your own pocket. So there's no government rebate, and there's no private health fund rebate at this point in time either for
Okay, but
naturopathy.
it's a good idea, I would
It's
think.
definitely a good idea, and we
Yes.
are previously we have had private health fund rebates for naturopathy until recently, and so the professional associations at this point in time are working towards getting that back, so that people that are covered with their own private health insurance can still claim back for natural
Okay,
naturopathy.
it's very interesting. And
Yeah.
also my question about herbal products. Where can ordinary people get these products, and what the prices are, and what the producers of this herbal medicine? Probably about this.
Um, you want to know about the price of herbal
Not
medicine?
price, not price, but more about quality, how it's regulated,
Okay.
because it's the thing that can be very easily, just.
Yeah. So again, it's not very well regulated, but we do have what we call over-the-counter products and practitioner-only products. So, and the practitioner-only products generally are of a higher quality than over-the-counter products, although not in all cases.
Mhm.
Um, but it's also a little bit of grey area as to how you can purchase these products. So it's sometimes you do see practitioner products in a pharmacy, for example,
Mhm.
but generally the idea is that you would consult with a practitioner to receive a practitioner-only product, but
Mhm.
as we've spoken about, it's not very well regulated.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same thing here in Russia. But also some our doctors they can make their own products. For example, uh, not in home, but like semi in home,
Okay.
or it can be they can use factories and put their own label on these herbal products. Probably you have the same thing.
Yeah, so what a lot of practitioners do is compounding of herbal medicines. So we would mix a mixture of herbal medicines into our own bottle and have our own clinical label on that bottle.
Ah, it's great.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
this product is so the patient, they can be assured that this product is really reliable, or
Exactly, and that's the benefit of consulting with a practitioner is you know that you're
Ah,
getting that reliable product, which
okay.
is tailor made to the patient. You know,
It's
it's
great.
individualized medicine.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. And how you prepare them? So you have some factory or some production. You make extractions,
Yeah.
tinctures.
Yeah, there's a couple of companies that we purchase the extracts from, in generally in like 500 ml bottles,
Hmm.
and then within that we mix them into smaller
Okay, it's interesting.
bottles.
So
Yeah.
extraction is the one of the most popular form of herbal medicine.
It is popular, yeah, because it does allow you to make an individualized medicine for your patient.
Hmm.
Whereas if you would give them a tablet or a product that's already made, you have to use what's available.
Yeah, because
Whereas,
I
yeah,
should focus in discrepancy, because in Russia we have lots of just simple herb mixtures.
okay,
It's called infusion. So infusion number one, because we all infuse, and the second place is only tinctures,
okay,
and extracts is only probably only biologically active substances, and half of all the products on the market, they are false.
yeah,
So that is a huge problem. But if we make infusions by ourselves, and it's it's reliable.
yeah, yeah, okay. That's we have also a lot of practitioners also would prescribe infusions,
Mm,
but it would be a lot less common than
extracts.
extracts. Yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
also about extraction, because it's so important for me to know the ratio of extraction, because, to 1 to 10. So how many uh, root or bulk materials were taken before make this extraction. So
Yes.
you just write this 1 to 10 all. So
Yeah, it's all clearly labelled, and
uh,
they're extracted according to what's known to be the most
uh,
optimal level of
yeah.
or optimal ratio for that particular plant.
Yes, and for
Yeah.
tinctures also, because in Russia we all know that you just take a vodka and you put it into the herb and you have a tincture. But
Yeah,
in fact, we should have 25% of
that's
tincture
right.
for polysaccharide content. So all these
Yeah.
differences, and no, not so many people here understand these pharmacological nuances
Yeah.
that should be known.
Yeah, and that's another benefit of using of compounding extemporaneously, because you know that
Ah, exact.
the medicines you're buying have been extracted at the correct ratios and with the correct ethanol content.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you know it's the quality is going to be assured.
So yeah, if you have extract, you know exactly what amount. So it's
Yeah.
very useful. And
Yeah.
yes, but also we have a theory that when you have extract, it sometimes the extracted compound is not so effective compared to whole herb, because I say that a lot of papers, they compared extracted um, botanical medicine drug and whole, and
Mhm.
it's appeared to be that the whole sometimes is more effective than extracted.
Yeah, well,
So
that makes sense. I think most of the herbs that are extracted are based on information from the pharmacopoeias as to what parts of the plants have been used traditionally, and also what research there is on various different parts of the plant. So I think there are some herbs where they've used the whole plant, and then there's other herbs where it's the roots only or the aerial parts.
so it's
Uh,
all individual. So we should
yeah,
know in one case that extract is reliable and useful, and in other case the whole drug, the whole herb
That's
should
right.
be used,
Yeah.
so individually.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting about educational uh, biochemistry. What is the basic science in naturopathy? So it's chemistry, anatomy, physiology. What?
Yeah, so anatomy and physiology, disease processes, biochemistry, nutritional biochemistry.
Nutritional.
Yeah, and then we move into the phytochemistry and pharmacognosy and advanced herbal medicine, prescription, and
Okay.
yeah. And a small component of counselling also would be included in our education.
Okay. And
Yeah.
have you the such lessons in how to gather herbs? Because probably in Australia it's a hot country with a good climate. You can collect these herbs in your garden. Probably have some fields that.
Yeah, I think this part of the education is actually missing from Australian education. So there's not so much practical hands-on side of things. We don't really go out and learn how to identify plants, for example. We're only doing it in the classroom, so it's not quite the same as actually
Because
really getting your hands on the plants.
I know the courses that you should know how to pick the necessary herb
That's
and
right.
not
What time of year?
Yeah. What the
Also,
season,
yeah.
how to store all this.
Yeah.
stuff.
So there's a lot of that practical side of things is missing at the moment from our
missing.
education. Yeah. And I guess that's where you would pursue further education once you've got the degree, which is probably the foundations, then you'll go on to do further education and fill in the gaps, I guess, afterwards.
Okay, interesting. And what's your, bias in naturopathic medicine? So what's your focus of practice? Probably you can be divided naturopathy, because in general it can be very lot of information for one person.
Yeah.
But when you divide, it can be more sophisticated.
Yeah. So we focus a lot on diet and lifestyle, and then after that we would move into prescription. So is that what you're asking?
We have naturopathic doctors that are focused on oncology, oncological
specializations.
patients. Yeah, they have a lot of more patients, more experience, all this stuff. And some they have a focus on gynecology, because some of these doctors, they're medical doctors.
Yeah.
But they decided to add this naturopathic medicine in their clinical practice, in their clinical settings. That's why they just know more the field.
Yeah, okay. For us, I think it's more often the other way around. So where a lot of people are naturopaths first, and then they'll move into some area that they want to specialise in. So oftentimes it is gynecology or thyroid diseases, cardiovascular, whatever it may be. People will generally decide on their specialty either during their degree or once they're finished.
Okay, so interesting. And how about your private practice? How it's really organized? How many patients a day, and what the follow-up? Because the main drawback of naturopathic medicine that not so many patients they stick to the prescription, and it's a huge problem. How you tackle this?
Yeah, well, it's always going to be a difficult situation for naturopaths, I suppose. But in our clinic, we have a setup where we have a number of naturopaths working there, and we call it a naturopathic general practice. So there's ideally a naturopath there every day, so someone can always see a naturopath on any day of the week. And we have an initial consultation that's quite a long consultation, and that will go for at least an hour, sometimes more. And then I usually aim for a follow-up at 2 weeks after that to see how the treatment's going, how they're progressing, what they're finding difficult, or what they're, how they're finding. Because it's a very new style of medicine for a lot of people, and asking people to make sometimes what we may feel are small changes can be quite big changes to someone who's never really gone down this type of healing journey, I guess.
Okay, but I know that in English-speaking countries, naturopathy exists more than 100 years, so it has a long history of. So probably the people, they are more prone to these naturopathic methods. They are more, flexible and more open to this, no?
Probably not so much in Australia. I think, our history has been taken from various other parts of the world when it comes to naturopathic medicine. So, and it's not exactly a very common form of medicine. A lot of people will use natural medicines, but to actually consult with a naturopath is not an everyday consideration, I suppose, for most people.
Yeah. So for some others, for many people, it can be like something new because they lived their ordinary life, and when the problem just knocked the door, they decided to go to naturopathy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So oftentimes it's a very different style of medicine for the people that we're consulting with. Yeah.
Okay. And also an interesting question about coordination with conventional medical doctors, because we have a practice when we can collaborate. It's a great idea, for example, in gynecology, when you prescribe some herbs and then you see results and follow up with a gynecologist.
Yeah.
So you have such a cooperation.
Yeah, we really strive to cooperate with other healthcare providers and develop good relationships. And we do have one association that's aims at kind of developing this relationship between natural medicine providers and conventional medicine providers. Sometimes, it doesn't always work as you would like it to.
Okay.
But the goal is that we work together for the best patient outcomes.
I think for naturopathic medicine, it's problem number one, because when you cooperate, you have great results.
That's right. Yeah.
So this cooperation is so important. It's crucial.
Essential, really. Yeah.
And what the attitude of ordinary conventional medical doctors towards naturopathy, because we have a lot of hinders and a lot of obstacles on this way, because not all of them have a good outlook on this.
Yeah, we have the same problem. Yeah.
They said that all this rubbish naturopathic medicine.
Yeah, we're dealing with the same.
No scientific data, no any clinical evidence, and etc. etc.
That's right. We do get that quite often, but on the other hand, I think we're moving in a good direction with collaborating and building a collaborative relationship. But yeah, there's still a bit of divide there, and not all conventional health providers would like to collaborate with us, but sometimes the issue can be the communication as well, and that practitioners don't have the experience with the best way to communicate amongst healthcare providers. So we're actually developing a little bit of guidance to help practitioners actually learn how to communicate with medical providers. So you have
a clinical guidance for conventional medical doctors?
Yeah, communication strategies.
Yeah, because so far we have in Russia no any such guidelines for medical doctors. We have a lot of rubbish literature with a lot of unuseless, so scientifically unproven information about naturopathic medicine, how to use herbs, and all this literature is really a big problem, because people, they start to read this literature and understand that all this no any science in this literature.
Yeah.
And so But you have a guidelines, yeah? So,
Yeah, it's a very new guidelines,
mm,
but it's, I guess, the purpose is to encourage both type of healthcare providers to be able to communicate well and work together to,
mm.
you know, achieve the best outcomes for the patient.
Yeah, this collaboration.
Yeah.
It will be a great idea to combine conventional medicine conferences with naturopathic medicine conferences. Some
Yeah.
these combinations, but are uh, we were always separate because naturopathic that stands outside and stands somewhere, and conventional medicine. So. Probably you don't have this such a coordinated
No,
conferences so far.
no, not yet.
Yeah, because
Hopefully.
now I prepare myself and find scientific data in order to go with naturopathic data to conventional. But it's a little bit frustrating and a lot of fears because a lot of burden, a lot of hurdles.
Mm,
But these attempts I will be making, of course, because
yeah,
it's
we
great.
have to keep working towards, towards these things.
But we should collect really good science, all that we seamless, flawlessness,
Yeah,
yeah, this
yeah,
kind of stuff.
and develop new models for research as well, I guess, that are
Yeah.
more appropriate to, or more suitable to the holistic style of medicine.
Yeah, because as I understand, in holistic medicine we cannot apply directly all the statistical methods that we have in clinical practice. So probably you know some statistical methods for holistic medicine that are not used in conventional medicine.
So, what type of methods are you?
I mean,
referring
in holistic medicine, it can be such method. It's called method of expert opinions. When they put, for example, their opinion, it can be in grade from 1 to 10, for example. And
Okay.
you collect all these, expert opinions, and then to make the conclusions depending on this personal experience of different people. Why not?
Yeah.
But it can be only data or laboratory. You can have also
Yeah,
your
yeah.
own experience.
Yeah, that's right. More
It can be
qualitative
valuable, yeah.
data. Yeah, and I think what we're moving towards is slightly different models of research that are capable of taking into account the different components that are in holistic traditional medicine systems. So, in naturopathy, for example, we're not just using one thing. Usually we're using a combination of maybe a herbal medicine in conjunction with lifestyle changes, and so we have to develop research that's capable of capturing the whole practice, and that's, I guess, what they're calling this style of research is whole systems
Yeah, because
studies.
I always thought that statistical methods of in conventional clinical practice is like a golden standard, and also I believe this until recently. I saw that it's also had a lot of flaws, a lot
Yeah.
of drawbacks, and when they say they have all this scientific data with placebo-controlled trials, what kind of trials? What are the sponsors of these trials? A lot of questions also
Yeah,
appears.
there's a lot to consider when
Yeah.
you're looking at the quality of the
And
research.
probably
Yeah.
you can agree with me that there is a bias towards pharmacological use of all these drugs. Whenever you need this or you don't need this, you take a drug, not in lifestyle changes.
Yeah, that's
This
for
bias
sure.
exists.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I guess conventional medicine is very much focused on drug therapy. So, and the patient often expects to walk away with something that
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a couple of different factors that contribute to that.
Yeah, it's very big issue when patients they anticipate that this herb will be having effect just the second day after the
Yeah,
attack.
yeah, that's
It's a
right.
big problem because in naturopathy we need to wait for 3 or even
Yeah, that's
of
right. And it's
uh,
sometimes takes some good communication to really talk people through that and make them understand that it's not a quick fix. It's a sustainable
yeah.
type of healing, I guess.
Yeah, and also it's a problem for some patients to make infusions every day, to take all this drug
Yeah,
or
it's
herb
yeah.
and make infusions. It's so time consuming. It's not so.
Yeah, it doesn't always fit in
Yeah.
with this very busy modern style of life that people have, I guess. But I think I mean, you've got to tailor your treatment to the individual person as well. So I think you have to be a bit flexible and work out what's actually going to be feasible for that person. So you might not be able to make them make up an infusion every day. You might have to choose a different style of treatment.
Yeah.
But I think also once people start feeling the results, then they're more likely to keep going and to make it more of a sustained change. Yeah.
Okay, and also my question about what are the method of diagnostic, because in naturopathic medicine we have iridology.
Yeah.
This and how it's used and what is scope of this method? How do you think your attention?
Well, iridology, for example, we would use it to contribute to our diagnosis, but we wouldn't use it as a diagnostic tool as such,
So
as in its own right.
just on the firstly you use it and then you use it for like a follow-up. Do you see any difference on this?
Yeah, definitely. You can see changes will happen over time. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's useful. And
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Yeah.
So what? Some few words about your society. How it's organized? When? What the time you gather? What's your schedule of your society? How it's called?
Our association?
Yeah, Australian.
Naturopaths and Herbalists Association of Australia.
Okay, it's great.
Yeah.
And how many members in all this?
I think in Australia there's a few different associations. So, and some of them have members from naturopathy, but also other types of practitioners like massage therapists, homeopaths, and various other ones. So the bigger ones are the ones that have practitioners from varying different natural medicine modalities. The total number of members of NHAA would be slightly smaller. But we're organised, I guess every 2 years NHAA has an international conference. And we just had one this year in 2019.
In May it
in
was,
Melbourne,
yeah? In Melbourne.
Which was really great. And there's also a range of regional chapters of the association as well. So where I'm from in southeast Queensland, we have our own small chapter.
It's only from Brisbane, yeah?
Yeah, Brisbane and Gold Coast, and we call it southeast Queensland area, but we're based in Brisbane.
Okay.
And every 2 months we run a professional development evening for practitioners.
Every 2 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a regional chapter in Sydney and also in Victoria of the NHW.
And probably you have such thing like a clinical round when you discuss not only theory but also some clinical cases, because clinical cases is so pivotal, so important.
Yeah. There might be some events, some of the regional chapters have events where we would do that, but I think more often what happens is people have their own mentors and peers who they would discuss clinical cases with, and there's a few sort of closed forums online where groups where that would also happen. So a lot of people are using online platforms for that type of thing.
So you're more like webinars?
Yeah, webinars.
Becoming more popular because it's so convenient.
Yeah.
To be on webinar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably a question about scientific school. It's so very important to know that science, we have generations in science.
Mhm.
Our fathers and some predecessors that they started this. Probably all this who started this profession, or outstanding person that you just remember them. Maybe like here in Russia we have founders of adaptogens. There was some Brechman,
Yeah, Breckman and Dardimov.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we always on our section we just we recap all this information on them, how they lived, how they just made this science.
Yeah, we would also have, probably in the beginning of our education, we would cover the history and philosophy of naturopathy. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. And that's, yeah, that happens quite early on in the training.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's great, a lot of information. Probably you have a question to me because I asked probably what I wanted to ask. Very interesting to know what happens in Australia. Is such a great country. It's so hot compared
Well,
to
in
Russia,
some areas. Yeah.
especially Brisbane, where you have your practice in Brisbane.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
a great
Brisbane is quite warm.
city with a lot of sunny days. Probably no any rain at all.
Oh yes, we do have rain. A lot of
Yeah.
in summer we have a lot of storms. So
Oh.
sometimes quite wild storms. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But of
So
course, in terms of surfing, in terms of sun,
it's nice. It's a
nice
nice
city.
lifestyle. Yeah. I definitely enjoy the warm weather.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question, probably one of the last question is about how many clinics do you have in your city, naturopathic clinics, and
Oh.
what competitions enter your your area? How many?
Many, I think.
Many.
Yeah, we do have a lot. A lot of them would be, individual people, though.
So it's a private
Running.
practice, not
It's private
governmental.
practice, yeah. Yeah, it's private practice. And there are a couple of community clinics. It's not
Mhm.
very common, but there are a couple around where
Mhm.
they offer a free service and they run more or less on donations.
Mm.
Yeah, so that does happen, but normally it's private practice.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean from point of, when the government support, and for example, you have in the governmental clinic, naturopathic department. Probably it's not the situation that you have. So
No, there's no governmental support for naturopathy.
yeah, it's all private.
It's private, yeah. So that can be a kind of limiting factor for naturopaths getting started, I suppose. Um, it can be difficult to es- establish yourself as a naturopath.
Yeah, you should also have a license.
Well, no, not necessarily, because
So
we're unregulated.
no, unrelated.
In order to be a member of an professional association, you need to have a minimum degree level education in naturopathy, but the issue is that there's no regulation, so basically anyone can use the title naturopath
Yeah,
at this
because
point in time.
here we have practice when every 5 years we have a examination, and we should approve our licensure in not naturopathy, in a conventional medical specialties in all of them. Every 5 years, it's not tough examination, but you should update all your knowledge concerning your specialty.
Okay, so are naturopaths here more coming from a conventional medical background?
Yeah, mostly when doctors they understand that something happens unusual with the conventional medicine, they should add something to the practice. So most of them are medical doctors.
Okay, who have then gone on to become naturopaths.
Not they combine this. For example, if you're a general practitioner, you can prescribe naturopathic drugs and herbal drugs in your practice.
Okay.
We have a gynecologist who also see the results of naturopathic interventions on ultrasound. When he just do his ultrasound, he see how it really works. Uterus is really very interesting and impressive when you see this on ultrasound.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So what naturopathic training is required in order to use naturopathic medicine?
Unfortunately, we haven't yet naturopathic medicine like specialty and such like. Only some doctors they say I'm a naturopathic doctor, but whether you have education, no any licensure, no any what's your background?
Okay.
So you can no any regulation. It's of course it's bad because. Without this regulation, you can say anything you want to say.
Okay.
Without any restrictions, just.
Yeah. So you're in a similar situation to us with.
Yeah, probably
with
yes.
No regulation and no protection of title, I guess.
Yeah, because if this regulation can be implemented, then it can improve the quality of naturopathic medicine, and not so quality, but also the approval by other people that it really works. It's scientific. It's really a good thing to use.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So what about your association? What are the requirements in terms of qualifications in terms to become a member of your association?
To become a member, it's of course you should have a medical education. I don't say about high medical education. It can be it's like middle also, but of course if you have if you're knowledgeable, if you have a lot of experience, some maybe biological background, it's all good to be a member of society.
Okay.
It's also we started just in the previous year, so not so many time for our association, and the main hurdle is that not so many members can speak English, but it's naturopathic medicine is I think that it comes from English-speaking countries mostly.
Yeah, okay.
And it was started, as I know, 100 years ago in the United States.
Yep.
Initially it was there, and after that it evolved there, and after that it came to Australia after that.
Yeah, that's right.
This route of naturopathic medicine. So and now we have only some some doctors. They say I'm a naturopathic doctor, but they can say every rubbish that they can just imagine.
So there's no formal naturopathic education.
Yeah, no any naturopathic school at all.
Okay.
No one. So like it's filled. It's bold and how to say without any. Just and I decided to start this because I also saw a lot of information from other societies, and that's why I also contribute to World Naturopathic Association Federation.
Yeah.
Because it's very interesting to swap opinions, to know what's the situation in other countries.
Yeah. Okay.
And also implement all these regulations into Russia, probably to start a school, naturopathic school.
Yeah.
Probably it can be school that combine some foreign views and some Russian views, because we have quite different herbal drugs here in Russia.
Yeah. Okay.
Some distinctions, some differences in herbal medicine.
Yeah.
Some products, and also we should take some methodology from European countries, from Australia, probably some regulations, methodology.
Yeah.
Because we don't have so far our individual. So.
Okay. So how did you yourself become educated in naturopathy?
Initially, when I worked like radiation oncologist, I started to think what we can add to our clinical settings, clinical practice, in terms of psychology, oncological psychology is so very important, and also some herbal drugs that can improve the outcomes of radiation oncology, the patient's results.
Yep.
And I also at this time I had a degree, PhD in oncology.
Okay.
But we have also a degree that is also a higher standard, that we have PhD, and then we can also have a degree that is higher than PhD.
Oh, okay.
It's a doctor of medicine.
Okay. Okay.
And I thought what I can do else for these patients, and for my scientific background, how to evolve further. I decided to start this naturopathic medicine. But from biochemistry, from all these scientifically complex and very profound knowledge, like how its impact on DNA, what impact it has on other biochemical things. So, like very scientific point of view.
Okay.
And so I came up this idea to start this journey.
Yeah.
Naturopathic medicine.
Wow. Up to?
Probably you have some questions about naturopathic medicine here, in terms of not in regulation, because we have not such. We have phytotherapists, it's called. Probably no. In other countries there are no such specialty, phytotherapists.
Well, most naturopaths consider themselves herbalists, or herbal medicine is a kind of core component of their practice. So I think that we would consider ourselves phytotherapists in that sense. Yeah.
Phytotherapist, because in terms of frequency of using the term, we all these phytotherapists, but in foreign countries, naturopathic doctor, it's discrepancy, because here we have not such a name for doctor of naturopathic medicine.
No, we don't either. We refer to ourselves as naturopaths. Yeah.
And here in Russia, like phytotherapists more frequently.
Okay.
Is discrepancy, because when phytotherapy, we have a society, it's called a phytotherapeutic society, not naturopathic.
Okay.
Because we think that phytotherapy, we think only because of this, not because of nutrition, some other, how to say, naturopathic methodology. It's nutrition, probably iridology, what else? Some other modalities, vitamins.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, that we would consider that nutrition, but some practitioners use other things like massage therapy, homeopathy. Not in Australia, but in other places, there could be IV therapy, things like that.
Yeah,
do you use those?
intravenous?
Yeah,
because in Soviet times was really huge science on this intravenous, and I personally was when I used phototherapy, laser therapy. Of course, we have intravenous laser irradiation of blood. It's really good method of irradiating the blood with laser, and we have some clinical effects.
Okay. Is that something you use in your clinical practice?
No, we don't use, because it's intravenous intervention, and it's a bit from regulatory point of view. It's not so. You can't use it just without license, I would say.
Okay.
You have all sterile and all this.
Yeah.
Because of this, but I know this method, and we had. It was more popular in Soviet Union when. But now in not so many clinics where we use it.
Okay.
But I know that it's effective. It's have science. It has a clinical effect. So
yeah.
probably it's appeared to be that not all possibilities of naturopathic medicine is known.
Oh, I think that's
because we stick to know all that to some governmental that you should use clinical suggestions that you can use only drugs, you can use only how to say these settings, that you shouldn't deviate from this schema.
Yeah, yeah.
But because intravenous laser bright irradiation is not in this schema,
Yeah, that's right.
it's not covered by insurance, so
Yeah.
you're not allowed to make this. But that's probably some other naturopathic intervention, like intravenous vitamin C injections also, yeah?
Yeah, we also don't do that. Or there may be some limited practitioners who can, but it's not.
Probably
Intravenous
United
is not.
States.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know that now also some herbs can be used intravenous, like curcuma, and there's some new drugs that appears.
Yeah, well, St. Mary's thistle is one, definitely.
Yeah, some.
To reverse liver toxicity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so probably some last questions about what's your favorite herbal drug, or what you personally like mostly. You mentioned Leotro.
Yeah, well, that's why
Tonsillitis.
that's what I'm doing here in St. Petersburg is a little bit of research on Eleutherococcus,
Yeah.
and it is one of my personal favourites, which I use a lot in clinic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, adaptogens in general, but yeah, Eleutherococcus is one of my
It's
favourites.
great information for maybe subscribers and for those who will be looking at this video, because we have adaptogen and not so many our doctors evolve this topic and go into this science, and it's so pleasant to know that from Australia you choose this topic interesting that were initiated in Russia,
Yeah.
and it's really good to know this that you
Yeah.
know this adaptogen, this word, because it can be substituted by tonic sometimes. They
Yeah.
say that tonifying herbs, but this discrepancy also.
Yeah,
Then-
well, I guess the term adaptogen is relatively recent, so it was created in the late 1940s, so
Mhm.
but adaptogenic herbs, as we know, have been around for a lot longer than that, so I guess
Of course.
prior to that they were referred to as tonics, so that's where the crossover is, I think, or the link
Yeah,
to longer
because
traditional
we
use.
also, some other doctors, phytotherapists, they call every herb that it has adaptogenic effects. It also some minerals they say that have adaptogen, but it's
Yeah.
not scientifically known. How
No, that's right.
adaptogens have very outlined features, yeah?
Yeah, and that's what my research is all about, is trying to more clearly define this adaptogenic concept so that we can say this is an adaptogen, this is what an adaptogen does. Because at the
Okay.
moment it's very hard to say to even classify a herb as an adaptogen, because there's
Yeah.
no clear parameters to look for.
Yeah, because and probably we have also twice a year conference of
Mhm.
phytotherapists society of St. Petersburg, and you
Okay.
can just deliver some new data on this. It will be so great interest, because it's our probably herbs that we have, and to
Yeah.
know some information from you, some interesting features, it would be really. So I just invite you with
Okay.
this paper. It would be very interesting. So
Yeah, well, I
to make this.
look forward to sharing
Yeah, I
my
will
work.
make a translation for everybody,
Yeah, okay.
and it's very nice, because we need to also broaden our society and to involve more people.
Yeah, that's
in
right.
this.
Collaboration is
Yeah,
a good
it's
thing.
so crucial.
Yeah, yeah.
It's great. And a PhD degree, you're just aiming this degree?
Yeah, I'm just beginning my PhD project. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And
it's-
Eleuthero and the adaptogen in general, yeah?
Yeah. So the Eleutherococcus project will form one chapter of my PhD project, I suppose, and ultimately I'm looking at traditional medicine concepts such as the adaptogenic concept to more clearly define them so that they can be standardized and we can start integrating traditional medicine concepts into medical terminology and medicine.
It's great because we have scientific schools in Tomsk, it's a city in Russia, where they all in these adaptogenic herbs, they do this all the science.
Yeah,
it's
I've read
in
some
Tomsk.
papers from Tomsk.
Tomsk.
Yeah.
But most of them are only on rats, so in vivo, in vitro.
Yeah, there are some clinical data as well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of animal studies.
Yeah, a lot of animal, but sometimes not all animal studies can be used in clinical practice, because I know from my experience that we have a lot of compounds that really downregulate tumors. A lot of compounds, but when it's come to clinical settings, it's appear to be useless. So sometimes
a lot
we
of the
cannot.
Research hasn't yet progressed to clinical.
But
studies.
Nevertheless, the experience is it's what we should start from.
That's right. Yeah, we can use that to inform future studies.
Yeah, and you
develop
use
clinical studies.
you also provide your molecular biology studies in vitro. Yeah, also doing this research.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
So
no.
You're more based on clinical, eh?
Yeah.
Clinical effects.
The beginning of my work with adaptogens was a qualitative project to look at the practitioner understanding of adaptogenic activity. So how they are actually being used in clinical practice and how they're understood by a naturopath. And then I put this together in conjunction with the clinical data that we have and the laboratory data, because there's a lot of laboratory work on adaptogens as well, to form a more comprehensive understanding. And now from there I can start moving forward with, collecting more clinical data on Qualifications is one part of it.
So it's perspective, so you have a patient and you see the feedback, how it really works.
Yeah,
so
that's how I ended up doing this research, was from watching my patients that I've given adaptogens and seeing how the clinical outcomes are with them. But I noticed that the way adaptogens were working for people is not captured in the research. So we don't really understand how they work.
Yeah, because
from a research perspective. So, and then I realized that actually we can't even clearly define an adaptogen yet. So I had to really go back to the beginning to try and figure out, okay, what is adaptogen?
So you want to make it clear what the effects of adaptogen, how they work.
Yeah. I'd like to be able to design a clinical study to test adaptogens. But at the moment we can't even say what an adaptogen is. So we have to do the foundational steps first, and then we can design clinical studies that are relevant. Because there's a lot of clinical studies on adaptogenic herbs, but they're all investigating individual actions that are associated with adaptogenic activity. There's no study that captures the activity, how it works within a person. Some studies are measuring cognitive effects or other effects, but
or the impact. And do you know the theory of overall, how to translate from Russian, theory of overall improvement of resistance? That's called
that's it. Non-specific resistance to stress.
But it's not the theory that fully explains the effects.
No, that's the current definition of adaptogen, is that non-specifically increases resistance to a broad range of stressors. But the problem is that there's no measurable components to that definition.
So
a little bit vague.
I'd like to know more profoundly what all the peculiarities, how it really works.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great because it should be number one in our conferences because
Yeah.
a lot of
that's-
data,
Yeah.
but no so many clinical studies so far.
No, there's
I
none
mean
really.
contemporary, because in Soviet time they supported the science, and especially this it was military
Yeah.
support for military persons to be more resistant to.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, because probably I know that there is synthetic analogs that can boost your resistance, and that's
Well,
why.
that was originally what adaptogens were.
Yeah.
That's how the concept came into existence, was that this one particular scientist was investigating synthetic substances, diazole, I guess. And then the herbalists that we spoke of, Beckman and Dardimov, went on to investigate further in relation to herbal medicine. Yeah. So it's not just a herbal medicine term.
Yeah, because so adaptogens also can be synthetic, yeah.
Yeah, they could. Yeah. The original adaptogens were synthetic substances. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of those studies that I'm reading at the moment from the USSR were comparing herbs like Eleutherococcus with these synthetic substances like diazole. Or they're given them both together.
Okay. Here we have some problem with Eleuthero because sometimes it can be taken only from some kind of, not every part of the root, but only, how to explain. So Eleuthero, it's a shrub, yeah?
Yeah.
It's a shrub, and the main effective compounds are located in the roots.
Roots, yeah.
Yeah, and some of firms, they take only the bad quality roots,
Yeah.
and it appears to be that it's not effective because of this fraud.
Yeah.
Probably you don't have this problem. Probably it's more strict rules for regulating herbal drugs.
We do have varying qualities, and that's where it comes into where it becomes relevant about whether you're purchasing practitioner-only products or cheap over-the-counter products, which could say Eleutherococcus on the label, but it might be the leaves, which don't have. So, really, labels can be quite deceiving.
So it's the same problem, because many people, they can take this Eleuthero and they say the phytotherapy doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
But it's not. It has nothing in common with naturopathic medicine.
Yeah, we have the same problem.
Yeah, but that's because we have a toxicology lab where we can just define the proper amount of constituents in this particular herb. And sometimes our doctors, they test this by themselves, so they don't have only with your own herbal pharmacy. You should have just
and the quality herbal medicine companies would be testing. All of their medicines would be tested.
Yeah, that's a lot of fraud, even in the United States. Or there's such beautiful, labels and this marketing hints, but it can be full rubbish in terms of effectiveness.
Yeah, that's true for us too. Yeah. So I guess it's also coming back to education of people as well.
Yeah, we should probably we should find the reliable supplier of drug that you can just you know that it's exactly what you want.
Yeah, and that's exactly the
Yeah.
approach we take in our clinic.
Even sometimes they on label we can see the information that third party tested lab even, but how to is it really true? How to we can improve this? It was a third party lab tested or not?
Yeah.
This problem it's marketing fraud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay. It seems like it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also about the market, I have lots of questions and just 1 hour, just like 10 minutes, yeah. So
Yeah.
but probably we can proceed, yeah.
Yeah.
About the marketing of biologically active substances, because as I understand, in the United States, probably in Australia, there are lots of manufacturers, and they have such huge marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So again, it comes back to finding a reputable brand and sticking with them. So there's loads of companies that have herbal medicine products on
They
the
compete
shelves.
also. They have a competition. Probably because of this competition, they can improve the quality.
I don't think they need to, actually. I think it's a matter of money for a lot of people, so that's where we have to educate people about, you know, one product might cost a bit less than another product, but at the same time you might be wasting that little bit of money by buying that product because you don't get any effect from it. So it's just educating people about why you would pay a little bit more to get a better outcome.
But like the general suggestion, you should pay attention to price, because when the price is considerable, I mean, is high, then the quality is higher. Or this correlation is not appropriate.
Generally, but not always.
Yeah.
So it's just about knowing what to look out for as well, like how quantities of active constituents and parts of the plant that have been used, and as well as price. I mean, if you've got a herbal medicine product that's very, very cheap, and you know that, in some cases that herb might even be endangered, then probably what's in the bottle is not going to be what you think you're getting.
Okay.
So there is some cases of adulteration of herbs as well, where it might not even be.
Yeah,
the herb
it's an
that
overall
you think.
problem in every country.
Yeah.
Adulteration.
Yeah.
That can be no weak regulation and a lot of fraud. That's because if we can just tackle this, it also be good for naturopathic medicine.
Yeah.
And I know that World Health Organization have a program on just on controlling all this process, on some suggestions how to improve this regulatory rules for manufacturers.
Okay, for herbal medicines?
Yeah, I mean for herbal. It's called ERC, and also they have one meeting a year where they discuss these problems of quality.
Yeah.
Because it's crucial.
It is a problem, yeah.
Okay, so interesting. Probably some questions. Or you just.
I think we've fairly
So
well
full,
covered. Yeah. We've covered all bases.
That's all for today. It was really great to speak with Sophia from Brisbane,
likewise.
from Australia, in St. Petersburg, in Russia. Of course, I think that we should collaborate. Of course, I invite you with this your thesis, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. it will be so interesting for to know all these peculiarities of how adaptogens are working. Really,
Yeah.
all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes, I look forward to collaborating and sharing the journey
And
in the
how did you
future.
like the city, or your overall experience for sightseeing?
I really like St. Petersburg. It's beautiful and there's so much history and it's quite easy to navigate.
Easy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because initially we have very straight streets. Peter the Great, that the founder of the city, he told that all should be straight, just straight lines,
Okay,
and
yeah.
all the prospects are so well organized, I would say.
It is well organised,
Yeah.
and even the public transport system is relatively easy
Yeah.
to use, yeah. So for me, it's been good. A little bit of barrier with the language, obviously.
Yeah,
So
because
that's been challenging.
not so many
Yeah.
speaks. Yeah. Russian.
Yeah. A lot of people do, but yeah, certainly not everybody.
Ah.
And my Russian is obviously very bad.
Oh, so you speak Russian a little bit?
I'm trying, yeah, but nobody understands what I'm saying. So, no, I don't speak Russian, I guess is the answer.
Ah.
But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying St. Petersburg. It's a beautiful city and beautiful people.
And so probably you've been in suburbs, it's beautiful suburbs that we have with fountains and
Oh yeah,
all
I've been
gardens.
in Peterhof last
Peterhof.
weekend. That was beautiful. Very busy with tourists, but very beautiful.
Yeah. So we're waiting, Sophia, for with paper on the adaptogens.
Coming
Probably.
soon, hopefully.
Yeah, and so thank you for this discussion.
Thank
it was
you.
So
Yeah, it's been really nice.
plethora of information about naturopathic medicine. And goodbye.
Thank you.
Well,
Goodbye
viewers.
for now.